Before any technique, before any method, even before any word you repeat, there exists a silent territory where everything begins. It is there, in your innermost being, that the world bends before you. And that is precisely why I say, be careful when you manifest too quickly. Not because there is danger in manifestation itself, but because there is danger in doing it while dormant within. The 369 technique is not a spiritual toy, nor a ritual you perform to convince the universe. It is a portal, a simple mechanism that awakens, organizes, and directs your consciousness to a single point, the state you choose to inhabit. And when this state is assumed with truth, with presence, with feeling, reality responds with a speed that frightens those who still believe the external world is the cause. You need to understand, what you call quick results is nothing more than the instant revelation of what has always been active within you. It's not that the technique accelerated the universe, it's that it finally aligned your imagination with what you had been blocking due to doubt, fear, or hesitation. Manifestation, in itself, does not arrive from outside. It emerges from within, like a seed that always wished to break through the earth, but awaited the moment you would stop stepping on it. When you use the 369 technique with awareness, you are not writing words. You are assuming a new self. You are choosing, firmly and silently, which reality should present itself before you. And when this choice is true, not a whim, not a desperate attempt, but an inner decision, life changes so quickly that many are startled. Not because the universe is unpredictable, but because the Creator had forgotten their authority. The introduction I bring to you is a call. Awaken. Look within before looking at the numbers. Understand the mechanism before repeating the formula. For if you enter this process carrying the same state of desire, lack, and anxiety, you will manifest only more desire, more lack, more anxiety, and still blame the technique. But if you enter as one who knows that everything already is, as one who embodies the desired reality even before writing it, the technique becomes merely a reflection of your conviction. And then, my friend, it's too fast for those who still think small, but perfectly natural for those who have already understood the law. You do not manifest what you want. This is the truth many reject, because they prefer to believe that pretty words, repeated affirmations, or elaborate techniques are enough. But the universe does not respond to what you desire. It responds to what you are. This is the law, immutable, absolute, indifferent to empty efforts. If within you still resides the feeling of absence, of waiting, of doubt, of one day I'll get there, then it is this state and only this that life will reflect. You can write a phrase affirming abundance 369 times, but if your innermost being echoes scarcity, scarcity will prevail, because your feeling is your decree. The technique is merely the ink. Your identity is the paper on which reality prints itself. Therefore, when you sit down to practice the 369 technique, do not observe what your fingers write. Observe what your being is assuming. Every repeated phrase is useless if you still perceive yourself as small. What transforms is the silent confidence that what you declare already exists, and exists for you. Not as a possibility, but as a fait accompli. It is at this point that most fail. They continue desiring when they should be assuming. Desiring creates distance, assuming creates reality. Desiring proclaims that you do not yet have, assuming proclaims that it is already yours. And life can only deliver to you that which you proclaim yourself to be. You need to understand that your manifestation is not born from words, but from the identity you wear as you utter them. When someone writes "I have" but feels "I hope to have," the universe responds to the feeling, not the phrase. That is why so many try, repeat, insist, and nothing changes. They are performing the technique like beggars asking for alms, when they should be doing it like kings declaring a truth. The 369 technique works with devastating power when used by someone who is no longer trying to convince the universe, but merely reaffirming what they have already accepted as real within themselves. Assuming the desired state means mentally living as the person who already lives the end. It doesn't matter how the circumstances appear. They have no authority. It doesn't matter if the money hasn't arrived yet, if the healing hasn't manifested yet. if the relationship hasn't appeared yet. What matters is, who are you now, deep down? Life does not respond to the scenery, it responds to the character you have decided to be within it. And if the character is abundant, loved, healthy, prosperous, the scenery will have to change. It is inevitable. That is why I say, firmly, do not concern yourself with wanting. Wanting is childish, weak, unstable. Concern yourself with being. When you become internally what you wish to experience externally, the 369 technique becomes merely the trigger for a process already completed in consciousness. Manifestation, then, is not an achievement. It is merely the natural consequence of you finally having chosen who you truly are. Before we move on to the next point, let me tell you something that can greatly accelerate your transformation. There is a powerful, direct material that has changed many people's lives. It shows in a practical and structured way how to use visualization and the law of attraction to move from waiting mode into manifesting mode. You will learn to align your thoughts, emotions, and actions to attract exactly what you desire, be it greater financial freedom, healthy relationships, or a life with more purpose and ease. It is not loose theory or empty motivational talk. It is real application with real results. If you feel it's time to stop merely dreaming and finally start living what you deserve, this could be your next step. The link is in the pinned comment. Click, explore, and see what has already begun to happen in the lives of those who decided to truly commit. Now then, let's move on to the next point. Every internal image is a decree, and few understand the gravity of this. While many treat imagination as fantasy, distraction, or daydreaming, consciousness is already shaping every detail of the world around you based on what you accept as true within yourself. When you see yourself failing, being rejected, losing opportunities, being ignored, or having to fight for your very life, you are issuing silent commands that reality faithfully obeys. The 369 technique only has power when you understand that every image sustained in the mind is a seed planted in the soil of reality, and that this soil does not distinguish between what you consider positive or negative. It merely responds with absolute precision to what you imagine with feeling. This is why so many manifest the opposite of what they want, because they imagine with fear, imagine with anxiety, imagine by looking at circumstances, and then reinforce exactly what they wish to abandon. When you practice the 369 technique and write your desire, but then immediately return to imagining the worst, you are canceling what you created and reactivating what you fear. And life, obedient to your imagination, returns to you exactly what you sustained with the most emotion. The mind does not need much time to create. It creates the instant you feel an image as real. And if that image is of failure, failure appears. If it is of victory, victory approaches. If it is of abundance, opportunities arise from places you would never expect. Therefore, when using the 369 technique, do not imagine the processor, imagine the end. Do not see yourself trying to attract, trying to improve, trying to conquer. See yourself living. See yourself within the result, not walking toward it. The universe does not recognize effort but state. It does not ascend to your desire. It mirrors your inner vision. When you close your eyes and clearly see the final scene, the money already in your account, the body already healed, the relationship already existing, the life already transformed, something within you changes so subtly and profoundly that it is impossible to return to the old state without feeling a sense of strangeness. And this is what indicates that the creation has already happened. Remember, you do not imagine to try and manifest, you imagine to assume. Every image sustained with emotion is an established law. When you understand this, the 369 technique ceases to be mechanical repetition and becomes a tool of spiritual precision, capable of aligning your mind with what you wish to experience in the physical world. And when this internal image solidifies, the external world bends, inevitably, silently, precisely, because all creation begins in imagination, and nothing can resist what is perceived as true within you. The physical world is slow, but consciousness is immediate. This is one of the most ignored truths by those who try to manifest something and at the same time, the origin of almost all spiritual frustration. People perform the 369 technique expecting the universe to deliver to them, in seconds, visible proof that it worked. But they don't understand that the true change happens the exact moment you assume a new inner state. Manifestation is not a process that begins when something appears. It begins when you change internally. The external appearance is merely the delayed echo of that change. When you write, affirm, or imagine something, you are not initiating creation. You are finalizing it. Creation happens before form, before facts, before signs. Creation occurs in that intimate and silent moment when you accept as real what you desire. And for many, this is precisely the point where everything falls apart. They repeat the 369 technique while feeling the same, expect results while remaining trapped in the same state of lack, and then conclude that it didn't work. It wasn't the technique that failed. It was the identity that didn't change. If you continue to be the old you trying to attract a new life, the old you prevails, and life remains the same. Consciousness is instantaneous. Physical reality needs time to reorganize itself according to the new order you issued internally. But this time is not an enemy. It is merely the distance between your imagination and your perception. Some results take minutes, others hours, others days, not due to difficulty, but because each manifestation requires the external scenery to adjust to the internal vibration you have begun to carry. Doubt, however, is the greatest destroyer. The moment you question if something will happen, you return to the old state, and then reality tries to obey two conflicting orders, the order of faith and the order of doubt. And what arises is stagnation. Therefore, when you practice the 369 technique, do not make it a test. Make it a confirmation of what is already established in your consciousness. The technique is not for asking, it is for consolidating. If you write as one who begs, you activate lack. If you write as one who confirms, you activate possession. The difference is subtle, but it is absolute. When consciousness accepts something as fact, the change is immediate, not in the world, but in the being. And as soon as the being changes, the world will inevitably follow. Physical reality always drags behind consciousness because it is merely its reflection. The delay does not contradict the law, it confirms it. The question is never when will it happen, but rather, have you truly assumed it? If you have assumed it, the rest is merely the natural movement of the mirror. You need to abandon the old state. This is perhaps the most difficult part for those who desire a new life, because most try to manifest while still emotionally clinging to what they want to leave behind. They want wealth, but continue to feel poor. They want healing, but continue to see themselves as sick. They want love, but continue to imagine rejection. They want opportunities, but continue to believe that nothing works out for them. And then they wonder why the 369 technique doesn't work. There is no way to manifest the new while carrying the identity of the old. The law does not operate in contradiction. The human mind is accustomed to revisiting wounds, stories, fears, and narratives that no longer serve. And when you mentally relive what you wish to overcome, you are creating anew, watering anew, reaffirming anew, firming. Life does not distinguish between memory and desire. It returns what you feel with the greatest intensity. This is why so many remain trapped in repetitive cycles, not for lack of techniques, but for lack of renunciation. You cannot enter a new state while still finding emotional comfort in the old state. It's like trying to pass through a door while holding something that won't fit through it. As long as you insist on carrying the old weight, you won't pass through. When you practice the 369 technique, the real work is not writing what you desire, but abandoning what you no longer wish to be. With each repetition, you must internally distance yourself from the old identity, like one bidding farewell to a version that has served its purpose. This requires courage because the old state, even if painful, is familiar, and the familiar often feels safe. The new state, on the other hand, demands confidence. Confidence that you can live without the beliefs you've always carried, without the justifications you've always used, without the stories you've always told about yourself. Abandoning the old state is stopping the defense of your limitations. It is stopping the mental repetition that you are this way, that your life is this way, that your story is this way. It is silencing the old voice and allowing another to take shape. A voice that arises not from circumstances, but from choice. The 369 technique accelerates this transition when you use it like someone shedding one character and donning another. You write to reinforce the new you, not to escape the old. And when the new you becomes more natural than the old, external change is inevitable. No miracle happens while you try to carry your old identity with you. The door to the new only opens for those who let go of the past and cross lightly. Abandonment is the true act of faith. The technique is merely the ritual that confirms to yourself that you no longer belong to what was left behind. When this renunciation is total, the new state is established, and life, obediently, follows. Discipline is faith in action, and many do not understand this. They desire profound changes but live as spectators of their own lives, waiting for something external to convince them that transformation is on its way. The 369 technique was not created to convince the universe. It was created to convince you. Every repetition, every line written, every moment of focus is not a request. It is a reaffirmation. You are not trying to create something. You are saturating your mind until no room remains for doubt. Discipline is not a punishment. It is visible proof that you truly believe in what you affirm. Most give up prematurely because they confuse discipline with effort. But effort is moving the external world. Discipline is shaping the internal world. The discipline required by the 369 technique is not a tiresome routine but a silent consistency. It is the act of returning every day to the chosen state until that state becomes more real than any external appearance. When you repeat the phrase 3 times, then 6, then 9, you are not accumulating power in the numbers. You are accumulating certainty within yourself. You are teaching your mind to stop wavering. You are replacing the old internal dialogue with a new, firm, unwavering one. What destroys manifestation is not a lack of technique, but a lack of permanence. Many start with enthusiasm and end with doubt. They create with their hand and destroy with their thought. Discipline is the bridge that prevents this oscillation. It ensures that you remain in the new state long enough for reality to adjust. Because the external world, unlike you, does not change from one second to the next. It responds to what becomes dominant within you, and nothing becomes dominant without repetition. When you commit to the 369 technique, truly committing, not as one who tries, but as one who decides, something powerful happens. The new state begins to feel natural. At first you feel like you are affirming something. Then you feel like you are remembering something. And then suddenly you realize that you are no longer imagining the end. You are inhabiting the end. Discipline transforms desire into identity, transforms visualization into internal evidence, transforms the technique into silent conviction. And it is this conviction that manifests, not the practice itself. True discipline is simple. You return to the desired state as many times as necessary until it becomes your home. Even when nothing changes externally, you remain. Even when the mind tries to question, you remain. Even when circumstances scream the opposite, you remain. Because you are not trying to change reality. You are sustaining the reality you have already chosen. The 369 technique does not work for those seeking proof. It works for those seeking permanence. And when you remain firm in the assumed state, the universe bends not out of obligation, but out of obedience to an eternal law. That which dominates consciousness dominates the world. Now is the moment when you need to become silent within and remember who you truly are. Not a seeker, not one who lacks, not someone chasing after signs, but the very invisible cause of everything that appears in your life. The 369 technique is merely an instrument. The true power has always been within you. The visible world is delayed, slow, obedient. It merely reflects with unwavering precision what you carry as truth within yourself. If you continue waiting for something to change out there before believing in here, you will live trapped in the cycle of doubt, waiting, and repetition. But if you decide now, at this instant, to assume the desired state as a fait accompli in consciousness, then the change has already happened. The rest is merely the natural movement of events adjusting to your new identity. Life does not respond to desire. It responds to conviction. It does not respond to asking. It responds to assuming. You do not manifest through effort, but through permanence. Everything you wrote, affirmed, imagined throughout the 369 technique will only have power if you abandon the old state and remain firm in the new, even if the world does not yet reflect what you know to be true. No longer beg for signs, do not ask for confirmations, do not wait for circumstances to give you permission to believe. The Creator does not ask, they command, and the command is not given with shouts but with silent certainty. Therefore, from now on, stop seeking proof, stop doubting, stop shrinking before appearances. Manifestation is merely the delayed echo of an inner decision. Decide now. Assume the state as one who puts on new skin. Walk internally as someone who has already received, already lives, already possesses. And when the mind tries to pull you back to the old state, return to the end as many times as necessary until doubt no longer finds space to survive. Everything already is, and always has been. The choice is yours. Command in silence and remain. The world will follow. Man speaks and the universe responds. Every word that leaves your mouth is a silent decree that shapes the invisible and gives form to the visible. Most people live as if their words were merely sounds, but each one is a seed planted in the soil of reality. The world you see is nothing more than the echo of what you once affirmed, felt, and believed. Therefore, when you speak, you create. When you are silent, you protect. Silence, when imbued with faith, is more powerful than 1,000 anxious confessions. There is a secret that the ancients knew and that modern humanity has forgotten. Power lies not in saying everything, but in safeguarding what is still being formed. What is sacred is not exposed. Just as the womb protects the fetus, silence protects desire. One who speaks too much about what they want destroys it before it is born. For every word of doubt, curiosity, or fear is like opening the earth before the seed has taken root. The awakened individual understands that the world does not need to know what they are creating, because what they create does not come from the world. It comes from the invisible. When you rush to tell a plan, a vision, a dream, you haven't yet convinced yourself that it is already real within you. It is insecurity that seeks witnesses, not faith. Faith does not need to be seen, only felt. And that is why there are certain things you should never tell anyone. Not because others have power over your destiny, but because your destiny is shaped by the state you maintain in silence. The energy of your inner world is delicate, and when you share it with minds that still live in fear, doubt, and limitation, that energy mixes and weakens. When I say do not tell, I speak not of secrecy out of vanity, but of protection out of wisdom. Silence is the Creator's shield. It is the space where the invisible works without interference, and what is conceived in silence is born with strength. Conversely, what is exposed prematurely dies suffocated by the curious gaze of the world. Therefore, pay attention. Every word you release is an act of creation. Every confession, an invitation for the universe to act. But not every desire is ready to be exposed. There are desires still being molded by the fire of imagination, and the sacred fire does not show itself, it is only felt. Today, I want to reveal to you the 5 things that should never be said. 5 secrets that ancient masters kept not out of fear, but out of understanding of the law. Because whoever understands that the world is merely a reflection of the inner state also understands that there are words that build and words that destroy. And one who masters what they speak, masters what they live. The first thing you should never tell anyone is what is still being born within you. Your plans, your dreams, your purest intentions, everything that still lives only in the realm of the invisible, must remain guarded until it becomes flesh, until the world sees it for itself. The common person believes they need to announce what they will do to commit to their own word. But the awakened individual understands that true commitment is to silence. Because in silence there is no interference, no doubt, no resistance. It is there that power concentrates, matures, and manifests. Every time you speak of what you are still creating, you divide the energy that should be used for materialization. The external world does not need to know what you are conceiving, because the external world is not the cause, it is merely the mirror. When you share something that is not yet consolidated, you open the door to the gaze of others, and their gaze carries judgments, fears, and vibrations that do not belong to you. There are people who unconsciously plant doubt when they hear your dreams, not because they wish you ill, but because they do not believe in themselves, and they project this disbelief onto everything around them. When you tell, you invite these energies to participate in the creation of your world, and the result is that the power that was once unified becomes fragmented. The creator who speaks prematurely is like the sculptor who shows an unfinished stone and allows others to opine on what it should become. But the master knows that the work is only revealed when it is complete. True power is silent. It does not seek approval, does not ask for applause, does not need witnesses. It is self-sufficient, because it already sees itself as complete, even before being seen. And this is what you must learn. It is not the world that needs to believe in you. It is you who must believe in such a way that the world has no choice but to confirm. When you are silent and remain firm in the desired state, the invisible begins to act, reorganizing everything around to correspond to the image you hold within yourself. Silence is not passivity, it is concentrated creation. Think of a seed. It does not show itself while germinating. If someone unearths it prematurely, it dies. So it is with your desires. Every time you speak, it is as if you unearth what the universe is still nurturing. That is why the ancient wise ones said that the word creates, but also destroys. Use it with reverence. What you create in silence flourishes with strength. What you expose too early is lost in the wind of others' curiosity. Guard what is sacred. Speak only when the fruit is ripe, because only then will the world be ready to receive it, and you to harvest it. The second thing you should never tell is what has hurt you. Do not recount your pains, your humiliations, the injustices you suffered, nor the mistakes that made you bleed inside. Every time you speak of the past, you reanimate it. Every painful memory you share is a new breath given to a body that should already be dead. And as long as one revives what has hurt them, they remain chained to it. The past is a specter that feeds on your attention, and what you speak with emotion, you recreate. The modern world has accustomed people to believe that speaking is healing, but the awakened individual understands that there is a difference between awareness and repetition. Awareness liberates, repetition imprisons. You do not need to deny what happened, but you need to stop giving it power, because the power you give to memory is the same power you take from the present. The wound does not define you. It merely shows where you forgot who you are. When you recall it with emotion, you are telling the universe, I am still this. And the universe, obedient, keeps you in that state. There is a silent strength in those who choose not to victimize themselves. The one who is silent about their pains is not cold. They are wise. They understand that what hurt them was not the event, but the interpretation they gave to it. And they decide not to identify with suffering because they know that suffering is merely a fleeting mask of the soul. You are the observer, not the drama. You are the creator, not the character. Speaking of pain is redonning the wounded character. To be silent is to allow the author, your true self, to rewrite the story. Some say, but if I don't tell, I won't be free. I tell you, it is the opposite. It is precisely by telling too much that you do not free yourself. Words repeat the cycle. Silence interrupts it. Healing happens when the past ceases to be a topic and becomes an absorbed lesson. When one stops narrating their pain, the universe understands that they no longer need that experience, and then the new begins. When you feel the urge to say, they did this to me, say only within yourself, I learned. When you want to explain how much you suffered, say in silence, I awakened. Because the soul does not evolve through drama, but through understanding. Every tear is a step, but only if you do not cling to it. Therefore, never recount your pain to be heard, nor your suffering to be consoled. One who understands the law of assumption knows that what you affirm with emotion becomes your reality, and silence in this case is the greatest cry of liberation you can utter. The third thing you should never say is your doubt. Doubt is denial disguised as prudence, and when you express it, it becomes alive. Every time one says, I don't know if it will work, they are decreeing their own limitation. Doubt, when spoken, gains form and authority. And the universe does not distinguish between fear and faith. It only obeys the dominant vibration. When you verbalize uncertainty, you instruct life to hesitate along with you. The invisible only responds to clear commands. Faith speaks with certainty, doubt whispers in confusion, and the universe understands only one language, that of conviction. The common person believes that expressing their insecurities makes them authentic. But authenticity without wisdom is merely exposed weakness. The awakened individual, on the contrary, understands that power is born from the coherence between what one feels and what one affirms. If doubt exists within you, work on it in silence until the feeling aligns with certainty. But do not proclaim it. Do not share it. Do not surrender it to the world. Spoken doubt spreads like smoke, contaminates the air around you, and weakens the structure of what you are building. When you say, "I don't think I'll make it, maybe it's not for me," or "what if it doesn't work out?" you are instructing the universe to confirm that state. Every phrase transforms into form. Every emotional expression is a silent command. And the world, being merely a mirror, returns to you exactly what it heard. Therefore, never say what you fear. Fear, when named, becomes reality. Silence, when imbued with faith, dissolves any obstacle. Doubt is the opposite of creation. It is the interval between desire and acceptance, the space where energy disperses. When one believes, the universe bows. When one hesitates, the universe pauses and observes, awaiting the next command. One who speaks in uncertainty lives a life of instability. One who speaks with conviction transforms the impossible into routine. It is not the size of the desire that defines the outcome, but the degree of certainty with which you assume it. Therefore, when doubt comes, be silent. Look within and feel the truth that cannot yet be seen. Silence sustained by faith is the language of creators. It is there that the invisible moves. Words are instruments of power, but when used to express fear, they become chains. Do not allow your tongue to give form to what your soul wishes to overcome. Speak only what you want to see happen. Doubt must die in thought before it reaches the voice. And faith, this indeed, must be proclaimed, because every word spoken with certainty is a seed cast into the fertile soil of eternity. The fourth thing you should never tell is how much you suffer. Do not speak of your pains nor your struggles, nor the burden you carry in silence. Suffering is like a fire. It can purify or consume, depending on how you feed it. And every time you describe it, you blow oxygen onto the flames. Speaking of pain is to fixate it, to keep it alive in the imagination, and everything kept in the imagination multiplies in the visible world. The awakened individual understands that suffering does not need witnesses, it needs transmutation. When you share it with those who do not understand the law, you transform pain into identity. When you sustain it in silence, you transform it into strength. The world applauds those who suffer loudly, but the universe rewards those who suffer in silence, and even so choose to affirm, "All is well." This is not a denial of reality, it is a declaration of mastery over it. Suffering is not a sentence, it is a signal. It points to the place where you are resisting the truth of who you are. When you speak it, you crystallize it. When you observe it in silence, it dissolves. The wise person does not pretend that pain does not exist, but refuses to turn it into conversation. They understand that there is a time to feel and a time to be silent, and silence is the portal to healing. Pain recounted seeks compassion. Pain understood finds liberation. But the world's compassion is superficial. It keeps you in the role of victim, while understanding returns you to the throne of Creator. When you talk about how much you suffer, you attract the attention of those who vibrate at the same frequency of pain, and this communion creates a circle of lamentation from which it is difficult to escape. Shared suffering multiplies. Transmuted suffering, however, elevates. There is power in not telling. There is power in withdrawing and looking inward, saying, "I understand the purpose of this." Because everything that comes to you, including pain, was attracted by a state you maintained, and just as it was created, it can be dissolved. The awakened individual does not ask the world to understand their pain, they use it as a stepping stone. They do not deny it, but neither do they display it. They cross through it with dignity, because they know that suffering is merely the reflection of resistance to inner change. Therefore, do not speak of your pain to be heard. Use it to hear yourself. Do not recount what hurts you. Recount what heals you. Do not repeat the scenes of what made you fall. Repeat the image of what will make you rise. Every word is a decree, and one who decrees pain lives in it. But one who sustains peace, even amidst the storm, is already being healed. The silence of the one who trusts is the loudest sound in the universe. The fifth thing you should never say is that you are waiting for something, because by saying, "I am waiting," you confess that you do not yet possess it, and everything declared as absent remains absent. The awakened individual understands that time is merely an illusion created by the state of consciousness. When you say, "One day it will happen," "My time has not yet come," or "I am waiting for the right moment," you surrender your power to the future and abandon the present, the only point where power truly exists. The universe does not work with distant promises, but with states assumed now. The Creator does not wait, they recognize. Waiting is doubt's most subtle disguise. It appears as patience, but it is resistance. It arises from the belief that something still needs to happen outside of you for your desire to be fulfilled, but everything is already done. The invisible moves when you assume the state of possession. If you say, "I am waiting for love," you are affirming that love is not present. If you say, "I am waiting to prosper," you are telling the universe that you are still lacking. And the universe, obedient, reflects that state. One who understands the law does not ask, does not wait. They behave as if they have already received. They act, feel, and live as if the desire is already part of their nature. The common person waits for the sign. The awakened individual is the sign. Because when you see yourself as one who already possesses, the world adjusts to confirm your belief. Everything begins in feeling. You attract not what you want, but what you are. And while you define yourself as one who waits, you are affirming that you are not yet. This is the most delicate prison the ego builds, the illusion that something is coming, when in reality everything is already within. The Creator does not wait for the fruit. They know they have planted it and live with the certainty of the harvest. Therefore, never say that you are waiting. Say, "It is already mine," not aloud but in vibration. Feel as if you are already complete. Walk as one who already possesses. Waiting tires, but recognition liberates. Time is merely the reflection of your acceptance. When you accept now, the universe obeys now. And when you postpone the feeling, the universe postpones the manifestation. There is no blessing in the future. There is only the reflection of the present state. Tomorrow is created by today's assumption. So abandon the language of waiting. Replace one day with "it already is." The Creator does not wait to see to believe. They believe and then they see. Stop speaking of time, and time will bow before you. Because the one who lives in the realized now does not wait. They manifest. Everything you have seen so far points to a single truth. Power lies not in what you show, but in what you maintain in silence. One who speaks without awareness surrenders their strength to the wind, but one who guards with wisdom transforms the invisible into destiny. The world is a copy of what you affirm within yourself, and every word is a brick in the construction of your reality. People believe they need to explain what they are experiencing, justify what they desire, or share what they feel. But the true master does not explain. They manifest. They understand that words are divine instruments, and that using them without purpose is to waste creative energy. The universe does not respond to noise. It responds to vibration, and the silence of one who knows is the highest vibration that exists. Therefore, the awakened individual does not speak about what they want. They feel as if it already is. They do not comment on their pain, they transform it into wisdom. They do not express doubt, they dissolve it into certainty. They do not wait, they recognize. Everything the world calls a miracle is merely the result of someone who knew when to be silent and maintain the correct state. You were born to command reality, not to beg it. Stop begging for external changes and start silently commanding what you wish to see reflected. When you internally assume that you already possess it, the universe organizes itself around that decision. There is no mystery. There is only discipline. One who is silent in the midst of the storm and says to themselves, "It's over," sees the sun emerge faster than one who laments the wind. So from now on, make your silence an altar and your words sacred decrees. Speak only what you want to live. Think only what you wish to see. And when the world asks what you are doing, smile. Because only the silence of creators announces the birth of a new world. Everything already is. Everything is already within. And one who understands this never again begs. They simply create. There is a moment when a person, tired of seeking outside what they never found, turns inward. And in that instant, everything changes. Because they discover, not through doctrine, but by experience, that the entire world is merely a reflection of what they hold in their consciousness. Every face they meet, every situation they face, every success or failure is nothing more than the mirror of an inner state which they, often without realizing it, have assumed to be true. Life is a stage where your faith is the invisible scriptwriter, and everything that surrounds you today is merely the result of what you have believed yourself to be. But the mistake of most is to try to change the scenery without changing the actor. They want to alter the mirror without altering the face that gazes into it. They complain about conditions, people, and opportunities, yet continue to inhabit the same inner state of lack, fear, or doubt. And then they wonder why life doesn't change. The answer is simple: because the world obeys you not by words but by vibration. You can pray, affirm, repeat 1,000 times what you desire. But if within you you remain in the state of one who does not yet have it, creation ignores you. Visualizing and assuming is not positive thinking games. It is spiritual science. It is the sacred act of assuming the identity of what is desired until that identity becomes natural. When you assume with conviction, you stop asking and start commanding. The universe does not react to pleas, but to the silent decrees of one who already knows who they are. That is why so few manage to manifest consistently, because they visualize as one who desires, not as one who already possesses. Today I will teach you the correct way, one that not only imagines but transfers consciousness kind to the desired state, leaving reality no choice but to bow before it. Every principle I share is a step to remind you of your true nature. You are not a limited being asking for blessings. You are the very power that creates blessings. Everything you expect to see out there already exists within you, waiting only for you to stop doubting. When you understand this, the struggle ceases, the haste dissolves, because you realize that nothing needs to come, everything already is. What changes is merely the state you choose to inhabit. And the one who learns to consciously inhabit the right state can transform their own life today, not tomorrow, not after repeated prayers, but today. In the instant, they decide to feel as if it already were. Because it is this feeling, and not words, that makes the invisible inevitable. The first step is to understand that visualizing is not seeing with your eyes, but feeling with your whole being. Most people imagine what they want as if observing something distant, a screen where the desire is still under construction, separate from them. But the true creative act begins when you stop being the observer and become the character in the scene. You don't watch the image, you enter into it, breathe within it, act as if it were already your reality. This is the difference between desiring and assuming. Desire declares absence, assumption declares possession. And it is this change in inner position that changes everything. When you close your eyes and imagine the life you want to live, do not see it as a dream, but as an already accomplished fact. If what you desire is prosperity, do not see yourself trying to acquire it, nor visualize the path. Feel yourself already supported, already at peace, already secure. It's not about illusion, but about transference of consciousness. You don't pretend to be something. You have become something, internally, until it becomes your new truth. The body may still inhabit the old state, but your soul has already moved. And when the soul changes its dwelling, the world is forced to follow. The secret lies in naturalness. Don't strive to believe, just let the feeling settle in. Disciplined imagination is not tense, it is serene. You don't push the state, you allow it. Think of the actor who takes on a role with such dedication that they forget who they were before stepping onto the stage. This is what you must do when visualizing. Not look at the desire, but live within it. Many imagine money, love, or healing as something in the future, and therefore keep them eternally distant. One who visualizes correctly does not project into time. They already are in the now. Time is merely the echo of the assumed state. The person who today feels rich, even if they don't see a penny, attracts the circumstances that confirm their wealth. One who feels loved even when alone awakens encounters that mirror that love. One who feels healed, even amidst symptoms, manifests the body's harmony. That's why I say, don't ask for what you want. Live it in imagination as if it were already yours. Create simple, vivid, short scenes and repeat them until they become familiar. Because the familiar is what the subconscious recognizes as real. And when something becomes real to your inner being, the physical world has no choice. It simply obeys. The second step is to learn to be silent. Imagination does not flourish amidst the noise of worries. It is in stillness that the invisible organizes itself, that the hidden power within you begins to act. The human mind is impatient. It wants immediate results. It wants to see proof. It wants to control the process. But the conscious creator understands that every seed needs darkness before it germinates. Inner silence is that fertile ground where the new state takes root. When you become silent, you stop interfering, and it is in this letting go that power begins to move in your favor. Do not confuse silence with passivity. The silence I speak of is active, full of trust. It is the state of one who knows they have already been heard, and therefore does not need to repeat the request. When the mind tries to force, it communicates doubt. When it rests, it communicates faith. There is a kind of peace that does not arise from the absence of problems, but from the certainty that the outcome has already been decreed. This is the peace of one who has assumed correctly. When you close your eyes and quiet yourself within, something happens. The voices of anxiety lose strength, and your inner state begins to speak louder. It is then that power moves, silently, without spectacle, but with precision. This is how the invisible works, away from the eyes, close to certainty. When you silence the world within you, you open space for imagination like a hidden master to instruct reality on what must be done. The common person acts in desperation, trying to push life along, but one who knows the law simply withdraws and observes. They don't chase what they want, they attract it, because they are centered in the right state. And when the external mind tries to interfere with thoughts of fear, they simply return to the center, breathe, and remember. It is already done. This constant return to stillness is the discipline of those who manifest with power. Therefore, the second step is this: quiet the mind and rest in conviction. Silence is not emptiness, it is disguised fullness. Each time you withdraw into this inner space, the old world loses strength and the new one takes shape. It is in this silence, without effort and without doubt, that the invisible organizes itself, preparing the path your eyes cannot yet see. Because true faith does not speak much, it merely knows. The third step is to remain faithful to the vision, even when everything around seems to deny what you have chosen to believe. This is where most give up, when appearances scream the opposite, when reality seems to mock what has been imagined. But it is precisely at this moment that faith proves itself. The physical world is slow, dense, and bows only before the persistence of the inner state. Every event, every delay, every obstacle is nothing more than a test of your loyalty to what you have declared yourself to be. To be faithful to the vision does not mean to ignore reality, but to remember that it is secondary. The invisible is the cause, the visible is the effect. While you uphold the new state within you, the old one still tries to survive. And this is what you call resistance. But there is no real resistance. There are only reflections of a dying state. When you understand this, you stop fighting and merely remain steadfast. Do not react to appearances. Respond only to your conviction. Imagine a sculptor before a stone. Every strike of the chisel seems like destruction, but it is creation. so it is with you. Apparent chaos is merely the process of the old form dissolving to reveal the new. Keep your focus on what is already true within you. Each time you doubt, you start all over again. Each time you remain, the old yields a little more. Fidelity to the state is what separates those who know the law from those who merely study it. Remember, to feel is to command. To doubt is to undo. When you catch yourself looking at the world and thinking it hasn't happened yet, immediately return to your vision. Feel again. Relive the end. With each return, you strengthen the inner command that governs the external. It is this silent daily exercise that transforms possibilities into facts. The person who remains faithful to the vision, even in the dark, carries within them the force that moves the universe, because reality bows not to haste, but to conviction. Nothing is more powerful than a mind that refuses to be convinced by what it sees. And when your persistence becomes unshakable, the world finally surrenders. Everything that seemed impossible begins to rearrange itself, and the impossible becomes inevitable. The fourth step is to live as if it already were. And here is where many stumble, because they confuse pretense with faith. To pretend is to try to convince the world. To live as if it already were is to convince oneself. It's not about acting, but about consciousness. When you behave, think, and feel like one who has already achieved it, you create a new vibration, and the universe responds not to words, but to that silent vibration that announces who you truly are. To live as if it already were is to step into the role with complete naturalness. It's like the actor who doesn't play the king, but is one of the king throughout the entire scene. He doesn't need to say he's king. His body, posture, and gaze communicate it. Similarly, when you assume the state of your desire, you don't need to force, explain, or prove anything. The simple way of being in the world begins to emit a command. Circumstances, people, and opportunities align, not by chance, but by obedience to your new identity. Don't wait for the manifestation to feel gratitude. Feel it now. Don't wait for healing to feel peace. Feel it now. Don't wait for love to feel loved. Feel it now. It is this now that shapes time. The common person lives in waiting, always saying, "When I have, I will be." The creator lives in certainty. They say, "Because I already am, I will have," and the world merely confirms what they uphold. Life is an echo of the inner state. If your feeling is one of lack, the echo will come in the form of more lack. If your feeling is one of possession, the echo will come in the form of fullness. And the most beautiful thing is that the world does not distinguish between the real and the imagined. It merely replicates what is felt with conviction. Therefore, begin to act, speak, and think from the already realized state. So observe how you would react if that were an accomplished fact, and react that way now. Don't wait for the signs, be the sign, because when you internally become the desired thing, it has no choice but to come to you. It is a law as exact as gravity. The external world is merely a faithful reflection of the inner state. Live as if it already were, and you will see that everything around you will begin to treat you as such. The fifth step is total surrender. And this is perhaps the most difficult part for modern people. Those who have learned to control everything, to plan everything, to trust only what they can measure. But the creative power dwelling within you does not operate under control, but under trust. Surrender is the point where your will bows before the divine intelligence that already knows the way. It is the moment when you stop forcing and start allowing. As long as there is effort, there is resistance, and where there is resistance, there is no flow. To surrender is not to give up. It is to recognize that the invisible is wiser than you. Most people live between two worlds. They believe a little but doubt a lot. They pray with words of faith but feel fear in silence. And it is this inner division that prevents manifestation, because power does not flow in a divided heart. It demands totality. When you surrender, you stop questioning how and when, and simply know that it is already done. It is a state of deep serenity, of one who needs no proof because they have already rested in certainty. This silent trust is the fertile ground where the miracle sprouts. Imagine the farmer who plants a seed and doesn't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. They know that the process is invisible but inevitable. So too should be your relationship with desire. After visualizing, feeling, assuming, and living as if it already were, the final step is to let go. Stop peering at the world expecting confirmations. Stop testing the law with impatience. Act like one who knows the answer is already on its way, because it already is. Surrender is the abandonment of anxiety. It is looking at the apparent emptiness and calling it fullness. It is stopping the search for signs and becoming the sign. When you surrender, you stop resisting the natural order of creation. The mind stops interfering, and the subconscious, which is the true creator, finally works freely. And then, in ways that reason could never predict, reality begins to reorganize itself. People appear, doors open, paths are formed. Everything seems like coincidence, but it is obedience. The universe is merely confirming your inner surrender. But remember, true surrender does not happen when fear ceases, but when you choose to trust despite it. It is faith in action. It is saying, even while trembling, I know it is already done. This declaration, even without proof, opens the portal to the impossible. What people call a miracle is merely the result of sustained trust until the end. And it is this inner end, this point of peace where you no longer need to control, that makes matter bend. Therefore, surrender completely. Not to doubt, but to certainty. Not to fear, but to trust. When your heart stills and your mind stops struggling, power begins to operate without resistance. And then you realize that you never needed to chase anything. Everything was always coming to you. Total surrender is the coronation of faith, the moment you cease to be the supplicant and become the silent master who knows that what is seen will come because the invisible has already been assumed. Now, after understanding all the steps, only the final call remains, the awakening of inner authority. Because it is not enough to know the law, one must embody it. Everything that has been told to you so far is worthless if you continue to live as a beggar before life. The conscious creator does not beg, does not negotiate, does not fear. They declare. They assume in silence and know they will be obeyed. When the mind bows before certainty, the physical world has no choice but to follow. This is how the invisible governs the visible. This is how a person once again becomes the master of their own destiny. Most still live kneeling before appearances, as if the world has a will of its own. They weep before bills, diagnoses, rejections, believing that the external holds power. But power was never out there. It is where it has always been, in the point of consciousness you uphold now. If your life is confused, it is because your mind is divided. If your life is stuck, it is because your faith moves in circles. The world is not your enemy, it is your mirror, and a mirror never reflects anything different from what is shown to it. Therefore, do not ask the image to change. Change the gaze. Everything you desire already exists. The love you seek already vibrates within you. The prosperity you await already rests in your consciousness, asking only for you to stop doubting. The healing you desire does not need to be conquered. It is the natural state of your being. You simply need to align with it, and this alignment happens when you stop reacting and start declaring. The one who declares without fear is the one who understands that power lies not in circumstances, but in inner assumption. From today onward, no longer behave as a servant of conditions, but as their creator. When something challenges you, do not say this is difficult, but this has already been resolved. When scarcity presents itself, do not say, I do not have, but I am abundance. When fear tries to dominate you, do not defend yourself. Affirm, I am peace. Life will respond to your inner voice, not to your tears. You are the decree that moves the universe, and all creation begins when a person dares to believe they are who they desire to be. The power is within you now and always has been. There is nothing to wait for, nothing to achieve, nothing to ask for. There is only what to assume. Choose in this instant the state you wish to live in, and remain in it steadfastly, even if the world still says otherwise. Visible reality is slow, but obedient. It will come, it always comes, to the one who does not waver. Uphold your new self with silent faith and constant conviction. Live as if the miracle has already happened, and you will discover that it has always been happening. Cease begging for changes. Command them. Cease seeking signs. Become the sign. Cease doubting the law. Live it. Because one who assumes and persists does not need to fight for anything. They simply become. And when the self changes, the entire world bows. May you henceforth remember your divine inheritance. You are the power that creates, the word that decrees, the silence that commands. Everything already is. Everything is within. And when you know this with your whole being, reality will have no choice but to obey.